How the Gospels were written, the documents. All the publications of the New Testament and the Gospels in particular, whether they be in English, Spanish, or any other language, are translations of original texts written in Greek. Ancient manuscripts containing these texts were copied a number of times until each of the texts was fixed with the invention of printing. It was probably in 1456 that Gutenberg printed the first Bible. Those copying the manuscripts could not avoid making some mistakes. By comparing the various manuscripts, grouped according to their differences and their origin, critics can determine what were the original texts which the Catholic Church recognized as the expression of the apostolic faith and as the Word of God. The question remains, who wrote these first Gospels and what was their source? Some beautiful manuscripts of the New Testament from the 4th century have been preserved. They are confirmed by many other much older documents which contain paragraphs or sometimes complete books of the New Testament. Moreover, Christian writers of the 2nd and 3rd centuries oftentimes quote the sacred text upon which they have commented. John's Gospel is considered as dating from the years 90 to 100, and fragments have been discovered in Egypt very far from the place of origin. The fragments are dated from the years 120 to 130. In what follows, we will pay special attention to the Gospels, though they are not the most ancient writings of the New Testament. When the first three Gospels were written in the years 50 to 70, Paul had already sent his original letters. The authors of the Gospels. It is interesting to note that the first historians of the church already made special mention of those considered by tradition as the authors of the three synoptic evangelists. In 110, Papias of Hierapolis near Ephesus wrote, Mark, Peter's interpreter, wrote with precision, though not in an orderly manner, all that he recalled about the sayings and deeds of the Lord. He accompanied Peter, who taught according to the needs of the moment, not in the form of a composition, and he made no mistakes in including some things as he remembered them. Matthew put together the sayings of the Lord in Hebrew, and from then on, everyone translated them according to his ability. In 185, Bishop and martyr Saint Irenaeus wrote, Matthew published a gospel among the Hebrews and in their language, while Peter and Paul went out to evangelize Rome and establish the church. After they left, Mark, a disciple and Peter's translator, wrote down Peter's preaching. Luke, Paul's companion, also wrote a book about the gospel preached by Paul. These ancient sources, about which we could add more, were thoroughly examined by many modern biblical scholars, and lately they have once again been accepted as information of historical value. Moreover, it would be a mistake to think that the Gospels had been written in one piece by men like Matthew, Mark, or Luke, who at a given time decided to record by means of the written word the active ministry and the teaching of Jesus. From the oral tradition to our Gospels. We know that Jesus died when he was still young and that he died without having written anything. Jesus had dedicated most of his time to forming the 12 apostles whom he had chosen. They lived with him, as was the custom of disciples with Jewish teachers. Jesus had them learn his teaching by heart. Instead of multiplying discourses, Jesus repeated the essential truths in many ways. We cannot doubt that after the days of the Pentecost, their concern was to give form to these instructions of Jesus, which were to be the catechesis of the early church. At the beginning, the apostles witnessed to what they had seen and heard. Gradually, there emerged a need to have a written record of their testimony to safeguard the memory. We ourselves often do this when, during a meeting, the sharing of the participants is recorded for the benefit of those not present. The Christian communities of Palestine spoke Aramaic or Hebrew according to regions and environment. It follows that the first accounts were drawn up in these two languages. Gradually, the texts referring to what Jesus said and did were regrouped. In this way, the first Christian communities passed from an oral testimony to a written text, that of the Gospels. At that time, the Greek speaking Christian communities had become a majority, and primitive texts were translated into that language. The Gospel of John. The first three evangelists not only differ in their focus but also in rather different presentations of the deeds and words of Jesus. Each actually has his own theology, his own special way of knowing Jesus, and it is this profound view, this personal testimony, which finally justifies the differences. In the Gospel of John, we find parts of an ancient gospel as simple as Mark's, with more deeds than words of Jesus, which may have been addressed to the Christian communities of Samaria and which were written in Aramaic. This was the foundation on which John developed long discourses of Jesus, showing that salvation transforms humankind and renews creation.